Hey guys, J-Man here. Welcome to my video. After a few weeks of silence, it is finally time to come back and take a closer look at DIR EN GREY's 10th studio album, The Insulated World. But J-Man, that album was released over a month ago. Nobody cares anymore. Shh. Be quiet, little Timmy. I'm well aware that there are already a bunch of reviews on different websites and YouTube channels, and honestly, I wanted to make this video way earlier. However, my subscribers know that I don't like to rush things, especially in the case of DIR EN GREY. I said it multiple times on my videos, social media and other occasions. Ever since the release of Ouroboros in 2008, DIR EN GREY became a band which challenged the listener with every new album. I still remember my very first playthrough of Rubbish-Heap, and it was just an utter disappointment after these ultra catchy single releases. Those word experiments, those chaotic outbreaks and Kyo's insane noises made it honestly look like a failed art project. However, after my maybe 8th or 9th playthrough, something really magical happened. While listening to Dreambox, I had this really strange moment of enlightenment where suddenly everything fell into its place and this whole album started to make sense. In my opinion, this invisible wall is a true quality trademark of every ambitious record, and it indicates true musicianship. My experience with Archer was maybe quite similar, but certainly the same for this album. Every time I worked on the script for this review, there was this new small detail to discover, or my whole perspective changed for certain songs. Now, I finally reached the point where I'm confident enough to give my final thoughts on The Insulated World. Let's check it out together right after the intro. As always, we will start with the general release informations. The Insulated World was released on the 26th of September by the Japanese home label Firewall Div. The base album features 13 tracks with a playtime of 50.5 minutes. Following the tradition of previous albums, there are different special versions. The first press edition features a bonus disc with 3 bonus tracks. Die-hard fans have the option to buy the massive limited edition, which includes a bonus disc with 3 remakes of the classic songs Kikan, The Deeper Wildness and Ryu, which is also known as Wake, and also 3 live tracks. It also offers an additional DVD or Blu-ray, which includes the PV for Ranunculus, live footage and behind the scenes material. Western fans who can't afford the import have the choice between the digital version on all official download platforms, or they can purchase the European version, which was released on the 19th of October. Okami Records promised to include the original Japanese booklet as well as the Kikan remake as a bonus track. With this out of the way, we can finally talk about the music. The Insulated World starts furious with the uptempo beat of Keibetsu to Hachimari, which is accompanied by this dominant groovy guitar work and a range of different harsh vocals. At first I was kinda skeptical, because DIR EN GREY already had similar fast-paced tracks since their masterpiece Ouroboros. However, over time it started to grow on me. The high energy level and the general drive of this track created a similar experience to the Rasetsukoku remake from their Dumspiru era. At the end, it turned out to be the best and most fun way to start this album. Once again, my first impression on the second track, Devote My Life, was unspectacular. I would summarize it basically as DIR EN GREY doing DIR EN GREY things. It just feels so weird, chaotic and all over the place. that some people may write it off right off the bat. Maybe in some way you can compare it to Stuck Man, which was also written in a way to feel disconnected and weird. But same as the first track, after a few more rotations, it suddenly started to make sense. I especially enjoyed these slower, doomy passages with Kyo's devilish voice, which gave me vibes from their Tsumi to Batsu remake. Those parts are followed by my favorite moment as a longtime DIR EN GREY fan. You will discover this certain short guitar riff, which throws you right back into the indie era. Knowing how much their guitar work evolved over time, it's really nice to have this little throwback. Ningen wo Kapuru was already discussed in my single review, which you can check out in this corner. My opinion didn't change much. I definitely enjoy the high energy, this groovy guitar work and the very emotional chorus. It kinda feels like a clash between their Whiffering to Death era and the more straightforward tracks from Archer like Sustain the Untruth. With Celebrate, Empty Owls, DIR EN GREY step a little bit back from this nostalgic trip and follow more clearly the route of their previous album. Once again, a nice balance between this infectious guitar groove and some very tasteful dramatic moments. Especially those dramatic moments are carried perfectly by Kyo's vocal performance. However, the bread and butter of this track is definitely Shinya's excellent on-point drumming. He incorporates so many interesting details and twists which really showcase his technical skills in a very impressive way. The 5th spot on the track list is taken by the first single Utafumi, and I was kinda scared that it will be a little bit disconnected from the rest of the album. After all, Utafumi was originally released in 2016, 2 years ago. I mean, we all remember this time gap between Hakishisa 2 and Lotus, which were sound-wise completely different from Doomspiro Sparrow. And yeah, while working very well independently as individual tracks, they weren't really representative for the sound of the album. Much to my surprise, Utafumi aged surprisingly well, and it definitely found its place in a natural way on this record. And actually, while my first review of the track back in 2016 was rather positive, I didn't even notice how much I enjoyed this track until I rediscovered it with this album, and it actually became one of my favorite tracks. Rubbish-Heap starts with this short electronic introduction, which is interrupted by some dry and really accentuated guitar riffs. At this point, I was wondering, am I the only one thinking of The Morrow of a Bone? Later, the track picks up on tempo and features a few strange high vocals, so it seems like Kyo can't really create his vocal lines without at least a little bit of word noises and experiments, but without them we would probably miss something about DIR EN GREY. This breakdown in the middle of the track actually brings me back to this The Marrow of a Bone comparison, especially with Kyo's high-pitched vocals there and also this aggressive background instrumentation. With Aka we finally have the first half ballad on this album. If someone actually told me that this was some kind of leftover from their The Morrow of a Bone or Ouroboros era, I honestly would believe it without any hesitation. There is just something really special about Kyo's passionate voice, this really warm and dominant bass line of Toshia, and just the overall flow of this track, which is quite different from their later ballads. And no, I'm not saying I am disliking the ballads on their later records, but the dynamic and the warm character of Aka just creates this really nostalgic feeling. Values of Madness returns to this wild and unpredictable side of DIR EN GREY. Personally, I kinda describe this as pure rock and roll, with this high energetic passages, those spontaneous rap vocals, multiple tempo changes, and an unmissable groove. It's just really energetic and on a very high fun level. All those chains and different aspects are glued very well together by this ultra catchy chorus, which really forced its way into my memory. Again, it took some rotations, but I think it just became another one of my favorite tracks. Downfall, it's probably the only track which I still can't fully comprehend. It almost feels like DIR EN GREY decided to meet in their rehearsal room and unleash as much chaos as possible. Weirdly enough, I still enjoyed this track. I can't exactly point my finger on anything specific, but there's just something captivating about this song. Maybe it's this high energy level or just the zero F's given attitude. The next track, Followers, slows down the tempo again and turns out to be more in line with those kinds of ballads which you would have expected on their previous album Archer. Once again, it's exactly those calm moments where Toshiya's bass play really shines the most. He knows exactly how to take the spotlight and set creative accents without being distractive to the overall flow of the song. Keigaku no Yoku seems like an attempt to recreate this polarizing and avant-garde-esque atmosphere from Doomspiro Sparrow. This works perfectly in those atmospheric and doomy passages, which create an intense, eerie feeling. However, those electronic transitions into those aggressive outbreaks feel very sharp and abrupt. I personally call this the Dreambox approach, which worked out in the past on multiple occasions. In case you're wondering what I'm talking about, I mean those moments where they suddenly change the direction of a song with a simple click. However, in this specific case, it feels really forced and it rips you straight out of your imaginary world. I definitely see what they are going for, but I really feel like it could have been done more polished and flawlessly. Speaking of imaginary worlds, we are coming to the 12th track, Setsuentai, which can be seen as the Magnus Opus on the Insulated World with a massive playtime of 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Naturally, it will have to stand its ground against other long tracks like Diabolos or Vinshuka. Now, I wouldn't go as far as saying that it reaches the level of those mentioned tracks, but DIR EN GREY definitely did a great job at keeping the listener engaged with many details and a great amount of emotions. I criticized the previous track for those spontaneous direction changes, and Setsuentai proves that it could be done much smoother and natural. When DIR EN GREY increased the tempo here and hit you with these heavy passages, it actually feels logical and like it emphasizes this certain part in the track. Another thing we can spectate on this track is just how much this band has grown together and matured as a unit. Really every musician, really every instrument, the vocal and this whole dynamic goes hand in hand, and it's just beautiful to listen. The Insulated World ends with the third single Ranunculus, which I already discussed in my reaction video. In my opinion, it's the perfect choice to end this album with such an emotional and also ultra catchy track. I stopped counting how many times I caught myself humming the melody, be it under the shower or on my way to work. This track really follows me through my everyday life, and it kinda lets me re-experience the magic of listening to this band for the first time. It really brings back this nostalgia when I first discovered them for myself. To me, this track proves that they are still far away from reaching their creative peak, and they still have this inner fire from over 20 years ago. As a whole, the Insulated World is a worthy and fulfilling anniversary album to celebrate DIR EN GREY's massive band history. It certainly closes the circle to their older records in some aspects, while also further expanding on their more modern elements. It certainly continues the path of Archer, which reduced the complexity and bulkiness of Ouroboros or Dumspiro Sparrow in favor of a more streamlined songwriting. This being said, there are still these typical DIR EN GREY songs like Devote My Life or Downfall, which break with every musical conventions. In regard of the hit potential, there are plenty of well-crafted melodies and choruses, like on Values of Madness or the previously mentioned Ranunculus. The musicianship is once again excellent, and even though I can criticize a few small decisions, overall the band does a really great job and is on top of the game, while also each member has these certain moments where they find their very own spotlight. I mean, we all know, even beside having such an eccentric and outgoing frontman like Kyo, DIR EN GREY never was a one-man show. It's honestly quite amazing how well this band works together after so many years without any lineup change. As a last selling point, we have this longevity, because as I mentioned in the intro, even after all those rotations, the album still evolves and opens new perspectives on the individual tracks and lets you discover new details. So even if I take all my fanboyism aside, I still have to congratulate DIR EN GREY on such a strong and versatile album. Sure, they tuned down their innovative side in favor of a more nostalgic factor, but the Insulated World has still such a high entertainment level. For all those reasons, I have to rate this album with a very strong 9 out of 10 points. Sure, I wasn't completely sold after my first playthrough, and even now I wouldn't rank it as their best album, given how strong the competition is with Referring to Death, Vulgar, Ouroboros. However, it still shows DIR EN GREY on a very, very high level. Now, I'm kinda curious where they will go from here. Will they further follow this back to the roots approach, or will they surprise us with completely new concepts? Whatever they decide to do, it was always my favorite aspect of this band anyway, that you could never predict what will be happening next. However, one thing is for sure, we can definitely be excited for their further announcements. This being said, we already came to the end of this review. I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you did, please leave me a like and make sure to discuss the album in the comment section. Also make sure to press the subscribe button and hit the notification bell for more upcoming content. As always, for more news about Japanese music, you can follow me on my social media like Twitter, Facebook or Reddit. We also have a great Discord server where you can chat with other fellow Japanese music fans. If you want to go the extra mile, you can also support me on Patreon. At this point, I want to especially thank my current Patreon, Pat. Thank you so much for your continuous support. And to everyone else, thanks again for watching and have a great day.